Well, good afternoon. My name is Daniel Voss, and today's webinar is how to get more traffic to your website. This is part of our free webinar series at Five More Talents. And whether this is your first webinar that you're watching or attending, or it's one in a long series, I want to welcome you to the webinar today. We're going to take about 20 or 25 minutes today to go through some slides on the topic of how to get more traffic to your website. And we're going to look at three different things, three different tactics. One is improving owned media. Owned media just means your website. It could also refer to a social media page that you have, like your Facebook page or an Instagram page. Tactic 2 is to stimulate earned media, so stimulating what's happening on social media. Tactic 3 is about leveraging paid media, so Facebook, Instagram, Google, Bing, all of these different platforms provide a way for you to advertise on them as well, and it might not cost as much as you think. Then we'll wrap up by looking at an idea of how possibly you could combine all three of those tactics together to invite visitors to your church. So let's dive in. And as you know, this meeting is being recorded. At the end, there will be time for some Q&A after I stop the recording. So our mission here with Five More Talents is to help you at local churches accomplish your mission of welcoming newcomers, welcoming visitors to your church, practicing biblical hospitality, and secondly, equipping the saints. So we do that, of course, through tools and technology and training for your website and for your web presence, because your website is an important tool that can be used to help you in your mission of welcoming newcomers to your church and equipping the saints at your church to do the work that God has called them to do as part of the church. All right, so let's dive in. So the first tactic is to improve owned media. So the number one piece of media that you own is your website. So this chart, I love this chart. It really breaks down all of the different things that help you get a higher ranking in Google search or in other search engines as well. So let's start at the bottom. First, you need to make sure that your website can be crawled. So there's a couple of ways in which websites are not able to be crawled sometimes. For example, if they crash and no one notices for a long time, and then the website's down and the search engine can't access it anymore. If that happens, eventually your website is going to disappear from search. Another way is there's actually a little file that you can put in a kind of a hidden part of your website called robots.txt. And you need to make sure that robots.txt file is properly set up so that it's not inadvertently telling search engines not to index the site. In most cases, that's not a problem, but every once in a blue moon, that does happen. Now, more importantly, let's look at the next level, which is about compelling content. So one example of compelling content would be multimedia. So if you have some video or some audio, perhaps some images, all of those count as compelling content. And of course, text. Text can be poorly written or it can be well written. You want to have well-written text. You want to have accurate text. You don't want people to go to your site and see that it was last updated in 2017, for example. So you've got to have compelling content on your website. Next, keyword optimized. So this relates to kind of how you divide up your site, and what's important is to do a good job of organizing your site, of not sort of mixing and matching content on pages. So for example, this would be a silly example, but let's say that all of a sudden on your staff page, you also started talking about events, or if on your events page you also had some stuff in there mixed in about your statement of faith, or you were trying to combine both of those things on one page. Of course, you can combine things where relevant, but keyword optimization relates to keeping your website really well organized. Next, great user experience. So this relates to how quickly does your website load, how easy is it to use, is it mobile friendly? All of those things mean a great user experience. If your website is slow, it's not easy to use, if it doesn't look good on a mobile device, then these days it's just not going to show up as high in search, because it's just going to be really hard to use for the majority of people that are using it. All right, next is share-worthy content. So, for example, this could be content that's timely about an event. Could be a vacation Bible school that you're having, or a conference that you're hosting, or a picnic that you're having, or a new sermon series that you're starting, or anything that people would want to share because it's timely. Another thing could be sort of memes of great quotes from scripture or Christian authors. That would also be an example of share-worthy content. Anything with images or video are generally the kind of things that people like to share on social media. All right, let's look at the next one, which is title, URL, and description. So this refers to what you see when you actually do a search in Google. And you'll notice that whenever, if you can imagine what a Google search result page looks like, you see the title of the page, you see the URL, which is your website domain name, and the page that it's on, and then the description. So this refers to, what do those title and URL and description look like? So to give a silly example, let's say someone was looking for sermons on Leviticus, and you had a page on your site that was about sermons on Leviticus, but the title of it was like 05721 or something like that. It's a very non-descriptive title. What you want is for that page to have the title, Sermons on Leviticus, and then the URL to also include Leviticus in the URL, and the description to actually provide a little teaser of maybe what the focus of that sermon series is about. And by the way, when was the last time when you heard a sermon series on Leviticus? That would be interesting. All right, now the last one is snippet and schema markup. So as you can see, we're really getting to things that are increasingly technical. But this is something which really pertains to the technical details of how events, and in particular, possibly sermons as well, although I don't think that is quite as something that Google really has much about at this point. But events is a good example. So it has to do with how the code for your events calendar and your list of events looks. If the code uses this thing called schema markup, then sometimes Google will actually list those upcoming events on the search result page, thus increasing people's propensity to interact with it. All right, so those are some fundamentals of things that need to be done to really improve your website. All right, the second tactic is to stimulate earned media. So this refers to getting people to comment on posts that you make on social media, getting people to share it, getting people to like it. So this is an example that I found. It's kind of not fair because Community Bible Church is in Texas and it's a mega church. They have 50,000 likes. So, you know, it's kind of not fair, but there's still some good things about this post that I think anyone can emulate, no matter what the size of your church. So number one, it asks a question: are you ready? So that's a really great thing that you can do in any post on Facebook, or not sure if that works on Instagram, but let's just stick with Facebook for now. You can ask a question in the post that you make, and by asking the question, you're going to be more likely to get people to interact with it. And as people interact with it, that makes it more visible on Facebook. This post also uses an image, and it's a very well done image. Anytime you can include an image or a video or something that's larger, that's visual, that grabs people's attention, that also increases its visibility. Really is a battle for people's attention these days. And you can see the results of this one. There were 252 likes, 11 comments, and 14 shares. So that's just something to think about. A couple of simple things is, as you do posts on Facebook, when can you ask a question? Can you include an image with it? And if you can do both of those things, then that's something you can start doing today or this week that will make your social media posts more engaging. And the other thing about this post, I think, is that it is timely. It's something that in this case was happening last weekend. All right, the third tactic is to leverage paid media. So you can see here some examples of churches. Unfortunately, not all of them are Orthodox, but there's an example of churches that are advertising on Google. So I typed in search, and then at the bottom of the screen it did show some ads for some churches. So you might be wondering, how much does it cost to run these ads? You know, what would that be like? So I did a few examples. Let's say that you were in Northport, Florida. Then you might, in the course of a month, you might be able to get 13 clicks for people searching for church, 680 impressions, that's people who actually typed in that keyword. And the cost for the month would be only $19 that you pay to Google. Another example, let's say you're in the Martinsville area, then you could get 7 clicks in a month for a cost of $7.27 total that you pay to Google. And that's basically the extent of the activity on Google of people searching for searches. But you know, it is interesting to think about, you know, what are those 7 clicks? Who are those people that are clicking there? All right, so how can you combine all three? It definitely is a good idea to combine all three. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Paying for ads can get expensive for sure. So how can you combine all three? Well, one idea is that we've tossed around here on our team is that you could improve your website by recording a welcome video. So here's an example from a church that we work with in North Carolina. We did not do their welcome video. They had someone local to them a welcome video, but it's really good. And what if you improved your website first by adding this really good video, and then secondly, you could promote that on Facebook. In the case of this video, it's actually on a page that the pastor updates each week, talking about the sermons that are being preached that week, the Sunday school classes that are available, and it's updated every week. So he could actually publish this on Facebook each week and use this image of the video. And then what if, in addition to that, you invested in some paid advertising? So it'd be some paid advertising that could be not only on Google Ads, it could also be on Facebook, or it could be on Facebook instead of Google Ads. And you might be surprised at what you could get with a $30 a month budget. So what if you did all three of those things, improving your website, posting something on social media that's timely, that's phrased as a question, that has some compelling visual imagery, and then doing a little bit of an investment in advertising. And just kind of as a cherry on top, what you could do is you could even have a button on this page, a little form where people could sign up for an email newsletter, and then you could keep contacting them through email as you have various events that you want to particularly want to invite visitors to. So that's just an idea of how you could combine all three of those things. So as we wrap up the slides, if you want to learn more about these things, I invite you to book a meeting with me. My page is danielvoss.youcanbook.me. That will take you to a page that looks like this once it loads. And it will let you just click on the green square, and then you can fill out your information to book a meeting with me. We can talk more about these things. And then here's a reference to where I got the idea of earned, owned, and paid media. So thank you for watching the webinar today. I'm going to stop the recording, and I want to thank you for watching. But for those of you who are attending live, I will be around for a few minutes for questions.